We're all here to think about the actions and what we can do to engineer the future together. So my name's Paula McMahon. So before we start, a bit of welcome and housekeeping for everybody. So hello everyone, we've got a very diverse group today from not just the UK but from all over the world. So for those that are not familiar with Zoom, I've put on some little screenshots of where you can actually see each of the bits. So you'll see in the top right hand corner that we're recording, you should notice that your camera is off and you're muted. I'm not sure whether we can actually switch it on later for Q&A, but if you want to switch it on, it's in the bottom right hand corner, bottom left hand corner, sorry. If you want to see a better view, sometimes it's better to have a look at the top right and put it into presenter speaker view. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick up the Q&A via the chat. If we run over the time limit, because I've only got a 40-minute Zoom, we'll go on to the second login, which I've sent in all of the emails. I've also got some links in this presentation and I've sent you that on the emails as well. And we're hoping that the recording of this will be on Scientist One in Europe quite soon. So a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. I'm literally going to do a whistle-stop tour to give you food for thought, and then we'll have a chat at the end. And the idea is that each of these, I'll just give you some ideas of what you can actually do and what action we can take. In each of these slides, I could do 20 minutes, half an hour, each of them easy. So it's very much a short overview. So I'll tell you a little bit about me, how engineering affects our everyday life, why we're here. We'll have a think about what we can do for tomorrow, why we build stuff and what we build now, and then some things that we do to sort of put together solutions, and most importantly, what we can do in terms of actions. And I'm hoping there's going to be plenty of Q&A at the end. So a little bit about me. I'm Paula. I'm a chartered fellow of both the Institution of Civil Engineers and the Chartered Management Institute. I've got that qualifications as a result of being a civil engineer and manager on lots of different types of civil engineering projects, built bridges, roads, buildings, undertook work on the Thames Barrier, was the lead engineer on Hinkley Point at the early stages. I now work for Sir Robert McAlpine and help maintain part of the strategic road network, but I also mentor staff to allow them to get professionally qualified, and I manage the social value on our project. Basically, I'm a STEM ambassador, STEM being science, technology, engineering and mathematics. I do a lot of volunteer work. I'm the local ICE chair, Institution of Civil Engineers. I'm an editorial panel member of the international journal, the ICE Proceedings Civil Engineering, and I'm founding chair of Engineering Together, which is lots of different institution groups. I also sit on lots of other groups such as the North East Chamber of Commerce Transport Strategy. I collaborate with lots of different climate action groups because I'm very passionate about it, and I think we all need to take action in that area. Amongst them are Climate Action North and Extinction Rebellion engineers. So engineering affects our daily life, everybody's daily life. Without engineers, we just couldn't go about what we do every day. So engineers have built things like roads, railways, bridges and power stations. But there's also other things that people may not think about. We provide water, communications, flood defences, dams and coastal protection works. And there's lots of different types of engineers. So why are we here? So scientists have proven, without a doubt, we're on a path to putting our planet in crisis. It's really there already. You can see that from some of the shots that I've taken, that we've got storms and hurricanes and other things. So put simply, we're starting to see the consequences of two major things. One's climate change and the other is as a result of us using too many resources. And without a doubt, this is only going to get worse. So action's needed now to minimise the effects, and it's urgent. No scientist will disagree that it's urgent. So we simply can't continue as we are. We have to think for tomorrow. So some of the things that we need to do are we need to be sustainable. We need to think long term. We need to encourage different thinking, ourselves and other people. And to do that, we need to welcome disruptors, people that are going to think differently to what we do now. We also need to educate the public. There's no point having just a group of people that are interested in it, fighting the cause. Everybody needs to do it. We've got to stop thinking about cost in terms of just money. We have to calculate what the true cost of things are, and that's in terms of environmental, the impact on our planet and everything else, because we need to put the planet first. But what we're here to talk about today is what actions we can take, and that's part of us all taking that personal responsibility. So let's just have a think about what we build and sort of why we build it. So projects only happen because there's a need. The need comes from customers, because clients only build what they think they can sell or make money from, or address that need. And the customers are you, me, everyone. It's also affected by the funding, what money is available to obviously do the scheme. It's very much affected by laws, so planning, environmental and safety laws define what we build, and also standards, engineering standards for design and construction are out there to tell us how we actually define it and how it gets built. So something to think about is that you were a customer. So you being a customer has led to the creation of the engineered world we have today. And this has actually led us to the crisis point. What we've got around us, all of these different things have accelerated this crisis. But think about the laws and the standards, that politicians only do what they think that people want. They want to get elected. So you can change that as well through democratic means, and we can all work towards changing our laws and standards. So your contribution matters. So let's think of solutions. There's lots of words being bandied around, and just to explain what they are. So solutions to address sort of all the things that we're talking about, that's the planet's in crisis, sit into three major categories: mitigation, adaptation and restoration. So let's look at them. So mitigation is stop causing the problem, prevent it from happening. Adaptation is taking actions to manage the impacts of what's already there. We're dealing with the consequences. Restoration is restoring a balance. It's basically repairing the damage that we've done. And we all need to do all the three. One alone isn't going to be enough. We can no longer just stop things from happening because we're already in a place. We have to adapt to what we've got, because we're already in a place where we've got problems, and we need to really try and restore and repair what we've already got. And these aren't just for engineers, these are for everybody, me and you and all of society. So let's look at them a bit more in a bit of detail. So mitigation, it's too late for prevention. What's done's done. We'll be seeing the effects of what we've already done for some time. However, we can look at further reducing harm. So we can embed sustainability targets into projects and companies. Engineers are doing that already. We can look at reducing what we use, and to some extent using alternatives helps, but there's no doubt about it, reducing is better. We need to measure it all by benchmarking where we are, and then we need to further improve when we've done things. As science tells us what's better, as we measure effectiveness, we'll constantly improve and change what we're doing. But we've got to start doing things now. And we can apply this at home, at work and in the community. This isn't just for engineers. So we need to adapt, and engineers, particularly civil engineers, are adapting now all the time. We have changing weather, we have a reduction in resources. So things that we're doing are we're including with our designs things like higher winds, higher tides and variable ground conditions. We're looking at schemes where we can put in early warnings for coastal erosion and landslides to minimise the effect of them when they happen. And we're also looking at alternatives, renewable energy supplies and things like enhanced water storage. So restoration, so society, I think we're starting to understand that we need to look at restoring the balance, take things back to a better place. So engineers are looking at things like capturing and offsetting carbon, and there's many groups looking at things like rewilding and putting more vegetation in place. So why are we here? We're here because we need climate action. The time for talking is over. I've sat in many meetings where we've done nothing but talk. So we all need to do our bit, and you can affect change. If you just look at the extract from the Institution of Civil Engineers State of the Nation report, there's a lot of things that we can all actually change. So energy supply, we all use energy at home and at work, transport the same, and residential all make up a massive part of just the CO2 emissions. And there's other things to obviously measure, water, other types of resources. But just looking at CO2, you can see that every one of us can actually do something to make a difference. So what's the sort of things that we can do? So we can make a start. If you haven't already done something, we can make a start and just think, where are you now and where do you want to be? If you're already doing something, do more of what you're doing and then keep refining it and improving it. But just keep in mind the good old reduce, reuse, recycle. There's nothing like reducing to have the biggest effect. But if we already have something, reuse it, and then we recycle only as the last resort. We need to diversify our thinking, our own thinking and the society's thinking. We need to aim for a workforce that reflects the whole of society throughout the world. So become an ambassador to look at expanding our engineers and scientists, our politicians to meet that society's needs. We then need to share things, but we need to be clear with our messaging. We need to make them easily understood. And find new audiences. So our scientists need to sort of think, who are the telling us the information to? Lots of graphs isn't going to be a massive help to any sort of normal members of the public, and we need to bring the public with us. So we need to present solutions, not problems. Again, I've sat in many meetings where scientists, engineers have outlined the extent of the problem, and that does need to be defined, and we need to look into that. But that's not people, it's not going to be helpful. It's not what people need to hear. We need to know we can do something about it. And we absolutely need to collaborate and share our learning. We all need to, if somebody's done something and it doesn't work, everybody needs to know so we can move on and do something else. And we all need to lead by example. Saying, oh, we only a small part of the problem is not going to be helpful. If nobody changes, nothing will change. So we all need to do our bit and we all need to lead by example. So some of the things that I've done, just to sort of say, you know, that everybody can do this, is I'm on the ICE Proceedings panel. So I championed an issue, a special issue on climate change. Obviously not everybody's on an international journal, but what are you involved in? What can you affect to actually get a message out to the right people? Also thinking of the wider public, I've wrote some children's books with a sustainability theme that's totally free to download and anyone can use them. So again, what's the things that you can do and extend the audience that you're talking to. Don't just talk to scientists, don't just talk to engineers, talk to the public. So some things to sort of wrap it up. So everyday choices, your everyday choices make an absolutely massive difference because every small change counts, especially what you buy. Think about what you buy, what you eat. You can make a difference. If you've got a big idea, go for it. Just think of what Greta's done all on her own. So celebrate the things you can do and don't worry about the things you can't change. There's lots and lots of, the problem we've got is that the problem's so huge. So don't concentrate on the stuff you can't do, get done the stuff that you can. And always bear in mind that there's hope. Just think of how better our environment was when we locked down, when we stopped travelling. Just stop travelling. We've seen a clean-up of air, of water courses, of everything. We need to shout up as well. We've got COP26 a year today. And we need to make it have meaningful global change. So that's different countries agreeing on measures that we can all take, that will come into law, that will make us change. And we need to shout out. So that will happen in a year's time. And what you can do is educate yourself. A good start is the events that's happening over the next week. They're the events, every day there's a topic. So we've got food, population, energy, pollutants, economy and nature. And then we close in a week's time. And that's a start, but look for other things. So let's have a questions and answers, discussions and share ideas. I haven't so far been looking at the chat, but start sticking things in, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let's have a chat. So stop sharing and move that over to there. So I'm not sure whether people can take themselves off microphones or not. I need to close that one. But I've noticed there's a couple of things in chat, so I'm going to work from that. But if there's too many people on the call for me to see people with hands up, but if you want to stick in the chat, I'll pick it up there. So Will's asked, apart from customer demand, many people, including engineers, invent or engineer things we don't really need to sell money, to sell them to make money. How can we stop this? So this is, again, hearts and minds. This is bringing along the public. It's going back to our simple reduce, reuse, recycle. We need to encourage people not to buy stuff they need. And that requires a massive social change in countries like the UK and the US. A bit different in places like Africa, where they'll only buy things that they need. And that's why the developed countries have got a much bigger footprint and what they're doing in terms of because of all this stuff that we buy. So how do we stop it? One person at a time, I would suggest, is the things that we can control. Then we can lobby our politicians, because then laws can come into place. I think that if we had taxes, environmental taxes on things, it would cost more, people would buy less, but we can't do that ourselves. We've got to bring our politicians along with us. So these are the sort of things that we can lobby. So another Will has asked, what would you recommend as a first step in personal change? Well, I think, Will, that's up to you. So there's a few things to think about. That people do things that they're interested in. So if people are interested or wish to do things, that's what they should be doing. So a lot of people say you should become a vegan. Totally agree that if you become a vegan, you'll have a much lesser footprint on the planet. However, one of my favourite ever facts is the Institution of Structural Engineers declared that every structural engineer, the carbon offsets 500 vegans. Yep. So that's fine. So a structural engineer, by doing things more environmentally friendly, and will have a bigger offset than a single vegan. But we need to do all of it. So whatever you can do is great. Ed asked, have engineers declared a climate emergency? And if yes, what have they been doing in terms of actions? So many engineering groups have declared not just a climate emergency, but a climate and biodiversity emergency. Each institution is doing something. The Institution of Civil Engineers has concentrated on carbon, and I gave you a link in your email to the Institution of Civil Engineers State of the Nation report. And the State of the Nation report outlines what we're planning to do going towards 2050. And it's very sort of tangible actions, which includes things like measuring and benchmarking. And we have sent that on to the government, central government in the UK, who have taken note of it. And I think it will lead to positive change. So Julie's said the likes of Deborah Meaden in Dragon's Den is really questioning entrepreneurs to the market. We need more of that. Totally agree. Again, one person, yes, she's got a forum in order to get the message over, but this is all chipping away at society's ways of thinking, and we need that. I always think that we never would have in a million years dreamed that when the UK smoking ban came in pubs that it would be so successful. And the reason that it was because everybody knew before it came in the heart of hearts that smoking was bad for you and bad for the people around you. So all of this getting into people's hearts and minds, the need in itself is positive. So when laws and things come in, then the transition will be a lot easier. So Paul said, let's talk about Elon Musk. Can we set up divisions and companies on carbon dioxide removal and solar radiation management? I'm sure Elon can do whatever he wants. And again, lobby him, put a case forward for the need for these things, get as bigger audience as you can, use social media, use groups, get involved in groups that are doing things, and together, if we have groups that have a voice, get together and make that voice heard. So yes, we do need vegan structural engineers. Catherine, The Happy Hero by Solitaire Townsend is a good starting point for making a change at home and inspiring others to do the same. Thanks, Catherine. Peter, the major challenge we face is not one of scientific knowledge or engineering feasibility. I agree. It is entrenched in the media, funding and focus on greenhouse gases by governments, activists and academic practitioners of traditional mitigation approaches. Yep. So given the near-term climate trajectory and quantitative measurements of ecosystem thermal tolerance, greenhouse gas mediated long-wave targeting proposals are simply incompatible with the available energy, remaining actionable time and current state of human social organisation. So thanks, Peter. So a few things, right? Actionable time, right? If we sit around and talk about things, nothing's going to get done. No doubt about it. Yeah. So actionable time, there's no doubt about it. The longer we leave it, the worse it's going to be. Everything's going to be worse. So the more we do now, the better. We can't wait until we get a solution, because we might not have solutions to these issues for 10 years. So we need to make a start on things, which is why everybody needs to do the little bit that they can do now, or the big bit, which would be great. Yes, there's certain things that we're doing that I think are a holding tactic. So, for example, energy. Yes, it's great. Let's use renewable energies, yeah, but nothing is better than not using the energy to begin with. Back to the reduce, reuse and recycle. The alternatives, we need them to meet our current needs, but our needs, we need to reduce them. Equally, the carbon capture and storage, that's something that we're going to have to invest on it to grab the carbon and put it into something where it's not into the atmosphere. But again, that's a holding tactic. It's not the solution. The solution is to stop putting the carbon there to begin with. Yeah. So yes, there's lots of these things that are incompatible with the energy available. We've got to balance that need and supply, but we need to reduce the need as well as looking at how we supply it. Everything is lots of different things. So Paul, his running shoes are designed to wear out in 300 miles and cost 3 times the 2010 price. We are meant to become bored with our phone in 6 months. Yes. Can we really alter this unsustainable trend? So again, bring people along with you, that to explain to them that things are measured in more than just financial cost. Pound notes are not everything, and to think wider than that economic cost. Often, generally speaking, if you buy something that's a bit more robust, it'll last longer. It's obviously better because you're not replacing it. The throwaway society is just, we can't continue. How do we really alter it? I think we bring along hearts and minds those that we can now. The cost of everything's going to go up anyway. It's going to naturally go up. We're running out of resources. We can't use petrol and diesel for much longer. It's going to naturally start costing things. So I think it's going to be, again, this multifaceted approach to get us to where we need to be, where we have to go. Claire, a meat-free day a week helps, as a vegan is a massive lifestyle change. Totally agree. She's vegetarian, by the way, not vegan. Brian, do you think the size of the engineering task in having a carbon neutral energy infrastructure within the next 20 years is unrealistic in terms of energy? I think Whatever we do, we do. I'm not sure if it's unrealistic or not, but we all need to start working towards it. We need to, whatever we do, we're knocking things down, and we're reducing what we're putting into the atmosphere, what we're putting into our rivers and things like that. We absolutely have to do it, and the more people we bring along, the better it'll be. And at some point we'll actually, everybody will sit up and say, yep, we have to stop this. And thinking that we're never going to achieve it is going to really get us nowhere. So we've just got to chip away at what we can. Thanks, Julie, for pointing out that Engineering Together has a project on plastics with the link there. Will, wouldn't it be a good idea to heavily tax any advertisement by anything that sells a product that doesn't help reduce carbon emissions or harms biodiversity? Absolutely, yes. But key thing is we need to actually measure it to actually determine that that is a bad thing. So there is work going on in that area. But yeah, I think taxing things like that is inevitable. Shouldn't there be a heavy carbon tax on advertising? Yeah, absolutely. Paul, are you aware of the new concretes that capture carbon? Yes, and I will, in the second session, show you a book that I've got behind me, Paul. Paul Ingram, could we engage with the young more in terms of construction planning and projects locally to make them fully understand how things work and make a green input into the process? Yes, absolutely. I mean, for years, the construction industry has brought into the projects students, say, from an adjacent school to explain to them about health and safety. I absolutely think that we could do that in design offices and talk about planning. And I agree that unless the young care and understand, we are not in a very good place. Totally agree. However, again, this time scale, we can't rely on the young. We have to do things now, all of us. So the people that are going to make the biggest change are those that's in a position of influence now, and that isn't the young. So again, we need all of it. We need to bring the young along with us because it's their future and they're going to help. But the people that are in positions now absolutely need to act now. So Bill Downing, he likes the tax, feel concerned about tag and caps and may hit the poorest hardest. Yep. So there's this, again, the economy. We could talk about economy forever. One of the things we have to bear in mind is the things that we put in place have to allow everybody to do it. And we have to think of all sectors of society. We can't just have the people that are helping with environmental issues to be the middle classes. We've got to have everybody. And so some of the things that we could do, say, in my opinion, first say home energy, is that everyone's allowed a certain amount, a reasonable amount that everybody can live with. But if you go above that, then you get taxed. But there'd have to be in place a mechanism for those that's in things like fuel poverty. Okay, so we have 2 minutes 45 left, so I'm going to do another couple of questions, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to save the chat and then go into the other room. Okay, so Ed, Paul, it is just marketing. I use the power. Yeah, marketing about shoes, that's another thing. Not everything's true that you read. So Margaret, I read about paving slabs that capture carbon. We're not sure if they're genuine development or not. Yes, they are. In the session before, we were talking about putting things into soil that could actually capture carbon as well. There's paints that that claim that they cleanse the environment. Yeah, all of these things will help as part of the solution. So Catherine, San Francisco is now collecting food waste with their bin collections to turn it into compost. I love composting. Those of us that have gardens should all compost. They are also fine households who put too much stuff in their rubbish instead of composting and recycling. I think that's the way we're going to have to go. There's going to be, everything is going to be carrots and sticks. So we can try and get people with the carrot and try and bring people on in hearts and minds. We can also help with through our democratic processes to help our politicians look at changing the laws, and the laws are going to be the stick until it hits people's pocket. Unfortunately, whether it be through fines or positive incentives, unfortunately, we're not going to see a huge amount of change. However, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't start things now, because we have to bring more people along with us. Yeah. So it's all multifaceted. There isn't just one solution. It's everything. Right. We've got less than 1 minute. So I'm going to save this chat now, and then I can go back to it, and let's end this one. And those that can, let's go into the second one, where I think we'll take our microphones and we'll actually talk to each other a bit more once I've been through the chat. And I'll see you in a couple of minutes in the other thing. So thanks for taking part and joining us. See you soon. Bye.